Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm Jake. And if you've seen my last video, you know that I'm kind of new to this Justin Posey treasure, the Beyond the Map's Edge. Even though I know it's only a couple weeks old, I just started on this 3 days ago, back on April 18th. Today is April 21st. I watched the Golden Greed show, was like, wow. Instantly bought the book, and then I've just been absolutely consumed with it for the last 3 days. Now, I by no means think that I have it figured out or anything like that, but obviously the poem is a very big part of this, as well as the clues that might be provided in the book and the clues that might be provided in the show. So I thought I would take the time and just, in my 3 days of research, kind of break down what I think the poem means and some of the directions that it's leading me to. So let's get right into that. So when I look at the first stanza of this, some of the things that stick out to me is lives in time and flowing. When I hear things like that, the first thing that comes to my mind is a river. It's a common Western landmark in treasure hunts, and based off some of the clues that reading about Justin Posey and his love for fishing and the rivers that were brought up in the show, I think it's obvious that we're searching for a river. Which river? I mean, obviously that's the question, but I think that's the very first thing that we're looking at. The next thing that kind of sticks out to me is the flowing through measured rhyme. What does that mean? Like I said, when we get to that aspect of we're looking for a river, what does measured rhyme mean? And to me, I think that means precision, maybe coordinates or some type of rhythmic trail, and maybe numbered waypoints, something like that. Shadowed sight, wisdom waits in shadowed sight. When I hear the term shadowed sight makes me think of, obviously the treasure's hidden, but it makes me think of possibly in some type of canyon. I think he's already said that it's not in a cave, maybe under a rock or something, some type of formation that's only visible at a certain time, maybe. Read these words just right. To me, that stresses some type of interpretation, hinting that the poem maybe has some type of double meaning or aligns with certain map locations. Like I said, I think when you look at the book and the show and realize like how important fishing was to him, the discussion of different rivers, things like that, I think it's not a crazy jump to say that a big part of this clue and a big part of this hunt is to figure out which river it is that he's talking about. The thing that really kind of sticks out to me in the second stanza, as hope surges clear and bright, walk near water's silent flight. So this just to me reiterates that we're looking for some type of river, maybe some type of river that flows into maybe some type of calm pool or some type of eddy, something like that, a fishing spot, things that he discussed at great length in the book about fishing. Fishing was a common reoccurring theme in the book. When we look at the next line in the stanza, around the bend, past the hole, I wait for you to cast your pole. So that fits right into what I've already been talking about. Round the bend, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to mean that we're talking about a river. Past the hole, obviously everybody's already figured out that hole is capitalized. So obviously that means some type of specific location, something maybe with the name hole in it. And as I wait for you to cast your pole, like I said, all that really comes into my head is fishing. some of the things that kind of, as I'm looking at the map and listening to some of the things that are in the book, some of the things that kind of stick out to me is like some type of water's silent flight. I'm thinking maybe something like a quiet river or stream. Something that's coming up in my head is maybe Snake River in Wyoming, or the Big Hole River in Montana. I think in watching some of the forums, the idea of it being in Montana or Wyoming tends to be a popular idea, which makes sense because of how important those two places were to him growing up. When I'm looking at Round the Bend, that points to me to a specific location, a specific feature, a specific river bend past the hole. Maybe we're talking about Jackson Hole or a hole in the wall, which was an old Wyoming outlaw hideout. So I'm thinking about maybe something like that when we're talking about this clue. So going in once again into the book, his fly fishing hobby that he's mentioned in the book, his visits to the Grand Teton National Park near Jackson Hole. As I said, to me, I think something like Snake River or Jenny Lake is possible location. I've also heard some mention about the outline on the cover of the book somewhat resembles the Big Hole River watershed, which hints towards Montana. So it does. It kind of resembles it. I don't know that it's an exact match, but it definitely resembles it. So that's something to consider as well. When looking at the third stanza, the thing that really sticks out to me is Ursa East. In Ursa East, his realm awaits. Ursa, to me, is more than likely referring to Ursa Major, the Great Bear in the Sky, also sometimes known as the Big Dipper, that rises in the eastern sky. The realm could be maybe like a bear-associated area, like the Grand Teton, which is a grizzly habitat, or maybe like the Wise River in Montana, which is near the Big Pole, which does have bear populations there. When I look at the next stanza or next part of the stanza, his bride stands guard at ancient gates. So when I'm looking at his bride, I'm thinking if we're going to Ursa Major, the bride could be Ursa Minor. And with Polaris, which is the North Star, as her face, could make sense. Maybe something to look at. I think when you look at some of the things that Justin Posey does, I wouldn't be surprised to look at some celestial thing or some type of star formation to look at. So something like that would make sense. When I'm thinking of her face, that could also mean some type of landmark or some type of rock formation, maybe like the Teton Pass or the gates of the mountains in Montana. And then when we look at the next line, her foot of 3 at 20 degree. Return her face to find the place. Like I said, we've already discussed the return her face, what that could possibly mean. The question is, what is her foot of 3 at 20 degree? When I see something like foot of 3 at 20 degree, to me that's suggesting some type of maybe triangular formation or some type of like 3 rocks or maybe even 3 stars, like the Big Dipper's handle. Look at that at like maybe a 20 degree angle. Maybe that's what it's suggesting. Like I said, return her face means facing the Polaris, the north, or whatever landmark it is that we're looking at space. So those are just some of the things that are kind of sticking out to me in that one. You know, one of the things that I saw on the show, and I've read some of the articles about, where there's been some talk about a cipher. And one of the things I really saw was the combination lock that comes out to, I think, 44, 26, 111 or maybe 10 and a half could be that thing. Which, if you were to look at that and plug that in as degrees or coordinates on a map, it could possibly show up to Heart Lake, which is in Yellowstone, which is a possible starting point near the Grand Teton. Just something else to think about. So don't know for sure, but that's definitely something to think about. When we get to stanza 4, one of the first thing that sticks out, double arcs on granite bold. To me, that shows some type of key landmark, quite possibly a granite formation with two curved shapes like arches. That can be arches, it could be ridges, it could be petroglyphs, which gets me back to the Grand Teton area. They have arc-like ridges all over the place in there. Maybe Sinks Canyon in Wyoming has granite cliffs with Native American rock art. We got Wise River in Montana, which is near the granite-rich Pioneer Mountains. It's another fit. And then when you look at beyond the reach of time's swift race, or where secrets of the past still hold. Secrets of the past still hold makes me think of some type of historical thing that's happened there. Maybe some type of Native American or pioneer history. Sacred place, to me, indicates some type of significant site, which to me maybe represents something with, like I said, Native Americans, which... So the places that I'm leaning towards, Wyoming, Montana, Yellowstone Park, Grand Teton, definitely would have some sacred places and Native American symbology there. So those places would definitely fit. And stanza 5, the last stanza. Truth rests not in clever minds, not in tangled, twisted finds. Like a river's steady flow, what you seek, you already know. To me, this kind of suggests that it really advises simplicity. I think Posey has said this already. I don't think the treasure isn't in a complex or obscure location, but probably in a recognizable Western landmark, like maybe somewhere near a famous river or a famous park. The river's steady flow, that to me suggests familiarity, or reimburses the river path that we've already talked about. You already know, that suggests familiarity, suggests a place that maybe you've already researched, a place that you would already know, some place that you would already have heard of. Like I said, to me, Grand Teton is really, really, really sticking out as some type of starting point. Like I said, there's already been some discussion about a possible cipher in this, but Posey mentions that the cipher doesn't require, or it would require some sort of technical knowledge, but it's not essential. Like I said, when I'm looking at possibilities for a cipher, I'm thinking like the safe combination, which if it does point to coordinates, we're talking about Heart Lake and Yellowstone as a starting point, if that's what it's suggesting. The clock hands that are in the show have been brought up numerous times, the different times throughout the show. I think those could have something to do with angles, coordinates, or maybe even a time to stargaze. So, who knows? So for me, my prime location hypothesis is, my first theory is I think it's likely in the Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, near the Snake River and Jackson Hole. I just think a lot of those clues match with those things. The other second location to me would be near the Wise River in Montana. So those are the two places that I'm leaning at right now. Obviously, there's a lot more research, a lot more studying to do. So I think there's more to this cipher. I think there's more to some possible celestial type situations where we might need to start studying some astronomy. But yeah, I mean, to me, that's where I'm starting. I've read a lot of the other theories. I mean, it seems like Montana and Wyoming are some popular spots. So I guess let me know. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm on the right path, the right start? Obviously, a lot more to do. Do you think I'm completely off? What do you think? What do you think the code means? What do you think the poem means? Either way, like I said, just even thinking about it and doing the research for it's incredibly fun and incredibly rewarding. So, hey, keep following me on this journey. Like I said, I'm literally 3 days into it. As I've said in my other videos, let's see if you can find it before me. Hey, subscribe and follow the journey, guys. Thanks.